Hey guys, in this video we're going to be looking at the Uniswap-Python client and see how it makes automated trading with cryptocurrencies on the Ethereum blockchain super easy. So before we begin, what actually is Uniswap? Well, Uniswap is one of the biggest decentralized exchanges for trading cryptocurrencies on the Ethereum blockchain. And it allows us to do this via an API. Now, this API logic can be sometimes quite complex, so in comes Uniswap-Python. This is the package that we're going to be installing, and it's going to allow us to have a more Pythonic way of dealing with this data, reading prices, so understanding quotes, how much the coins cost, and then finally actually placing trades. And we'll see a live trade go through to a MetaMask wallet. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to install this package. So simply Uniswap-Python. And then we can now import it. So we can actually say from Uniswap import Uniswap, which is the class that we're going to be using for all our logic. Now, there's some code that I've got a little bit further above, which you don't need to see, which I'm going to hide away from you guys, because some of the addresses here that you're going to be entering are going to be private, so you don't want to share them with other people. So to initialize the client, we simply just instantiate an object here. So we've got Uniswap, and if we hover over it here, we can see it takes in three main things. So it's going to be an address, a private key, and a provider. So the address is just the address of your wallet. I'm sure you know how to find that. If not, it'll be at the top of your MetaMask wallet, for example, if that's what you're using. Private key will be in the settings of your wallet, so you'll be able to find that super easily. I'll also attach a video down below in case you guys are unfamiliar with how to get these, because I've done a video already on how you can access these. And finally, you need a provider. So you need a way to access the Ethereum blockchain, usually through a URL. For in our case, what we've gone over in previous examples using Infura, again in the video linked below, or you can use an instance of Web3, which we covered in a previous video, and that's what I'm going to be doing today for simplicity's sake. So the address, as I mentioned, I've already defined as a variable further up as wallet address, and I'll just show you that. So if you scroll up here, you can see I've got wallet address, MetaMask wallet address, and it's reading it from a .env file that you've got here. You guys can do the same and follow this path. You just have to, inside the env file, declare this variable. So it would just look something like this. Equals, and then you put in whatever your address is, okay? And then if you follow along this code, you can call it in. But if you're not sharing your code with anyone else, don't worry, you can keep it how it is. So I've got my address. The second thing we mentioned was the key. So again, private key equals MetaMask private key. And then you can either provide a provider or an instance of Web3. So luckily we've got an instance of Web3 here. Finally, we're going to declare a version. So for the simplicity's sake, I'm going to declare version 2. If you look at the documentation over here, you'll notice that there's different versions of this. So there's slight differences, but nothing to worry about too much. Most of the code is the same. The only thing that I've noticed is certain specific coins, you might struggle to find them within certain versions. So that's just something to keep in mind. So we've now got our Uniswap client. We can see that ran fine, and we've got that, and we can start working with it now. So the first thing you'd want to do if you're, trying to automate some sort of cryptocurrency trading algorithm is you're going to want to understand the prices, right? You don't want to buy something when it's too high, too low. So we're going to get a quote. And the way we're going to do this is by calling uniswap.getPriceInput, okay? Now, if we hover over this, we can see that it takes in two tokens. So token 1, or token 0 and token 1, and then a quantity, so how much. We can also provide a fee if we want, but for version 2, it's not necessary. So how do we find these addresses? Well, an easy way for you to get these addresses is to go to coinmarketcap.com, and you can search for your relevant cryptocurrency. So if we just look at Bitcoin not going to look at Bitcoin, are we? If we look at Ethereum for simplicity's sake, we scroll down here, you can see next to contracts, you've got an address here, okay? So if this is what you wanted to be trading with Ethereum, you copy this. In this instance, we're going to be trading something a little bit different, which is a mem coin. So we're going to look for something called Mysterium, or MYST. Okay, I'm just going to find that here. And I actually want to find an exact pair, which is going to be this one here. You can see I've already searched for it. So it's trading MYST in wrapped ETH, okay? And then if you look down to the contract, so this is the exact pair that I want. If you scroll down to contract, you can see these two pairs. So you're just going to have to copy these two addresses and make sure that they're legitimate Web3 addresses. The way that we've done that is by calling here web3.checksum address, okay? So if you look here, this ends in F361. And if we go back here, you'll see F361, and then for Weth, or wrapped ETH, sorry, 6CC2, 6CC2. Okay, so that's how you've got those addresses. So now that I've got them defined as these two variables, MYST, WETH, I can just declare them. Now this is get price input. So this is saying how many tokens do I have to input to get something else out. So obviously my base currency, what I'm holding my portfolio in, is going to be in ETH. So I'm going to use wrapped ETH for trading. We've touched on in the previous video why we use wrapped ETH, but in short, it's the equivalent of cents to dollars, okay? So wrapped ETH would be your cents, ETH would be your dollars, okay? So I want to know for Weth, wrapped ETH, how many Ethereum tokens can I get? And now it asks me to give a quantity. And this part is where it becomes slightly confusing because I want to know the price in Ethereum, in ETH, sorry, okay? So I need to work out how to give a quantity in that amount. So let's just quickly go down that below. So we know for cents to get to dollars. So if we know that there is a dollar equals 1, and then cents equals, we know that it's 100, so there's 2 zeros. So we can do 10 to the power of 2. Okay, so now if we print cents, we can see there's 100 cents in a dollar. For wrapped ETH, there are actually 18 zeros, which I believe someone's going to correct me below, might be called a quintillion. Okay, so to find that, we do 10 to the power of 18 because there's 18 zeros. So this is how many zeros I need to pass as a quantity to actually get the input. So I can either copy this and paste it here, or it's better practice, because obviously it's very hard to read that many zeros, is to do this. Okay, so I can just delete this because that was just to demonstrate why we need to place this pricing. And now if I run this and we say quote, we can see this is how many wrapped ETH we need to pay for MYST or Mysterium. But we obviously don't want it in this way. We want to know, like, because obviously our portfolio is probably going to be in ETH. How can we actually show that? So what we're going to do is we're going to say, then again, divide it back by that number. Okay. And there we have it. So, sorry, I've actually just realized I've said that wrong about a minute ago. This is going to be how many Mysterium coins we can get from a single ETH, okay? And another way you can just double check that your logic's right and you're not messing up. So if we switch these round, and we look at this, 0.000103, and we go back to here, we can see that the last trade was 0.000104. So we know that we're on the right track, okay? Obviously, we want to know the opposite way around because we want to know how many Ethereum is it going to cost us to make this trade? How many ETH is it going to cost us to make this trade? So this is what we want to know, okay? So for 1 ETH, we're going to get this many, okay? Amazing. So now how do we actually place that trade? Let me show you guys the other way of doing this. So if you actually want to see the, so this is the equivalent of saying for 1. So this is how we're seeing a price. But if you wanted to see it the other way around, you can swap input for output. And this way you can see that number that we talked about here, okay? So it depends how you want to view it. For me, I prefer viewing it this way. So I know exactly what I should be getting. And the reason for that is that when you're storing your trades, like you can see here, you'll be able to say, okay, this is the price that I was quoted and this is what I received. That makes sense because there was, let's say, 5 cent slippage. Whereas if you're doing it the other way around, where you're doing output, it might take a little bit more complexity to work out, okay, how many did I get? I have to multiply this by this. So there you go. There's the both ways for you to do it. Okay, so now that we've got a price, we can go ahead and start making a trade. So if we want to make a trade, we can come down here and we can say Uniswap dot make trade. Very simple like that. And if we hover over, we can see that it takes in an input token, so the token that you're going to be selling, an output token, the token you're expecting to receive for that, a quantity, and then you also need to give a slippage, okay? The fee isn't necessary for version 2, but for version 3, for example, you do have to give a fee. So this is the most simple one. I recommend starting with this. So what is the token that we want to sell? Well, again, it's going to be wrapped ETH. So we're going to say here, ETH. The one we want to buy is going to be Ethereum. And then the quantity that we're going to give, let's say, for example, if it was, you know, hypothetically, if we wanted to do a whole ETH coin, but might be a bit much for your first one. I can actually quickly show you guys how you can do less. So let's say, for example, you want to just trade like a fraction of a coin. You can use this method, which is two-way. So I can go here and let's say if I only want to do 0.01, okay, I can go here and then just say the coin. So if you hover over this, you can see, give you a number, and then you also need to, so it gives a number and then a unit, which is a string. So obviously ether for this case. So this is what you could do if you want to deal with fractions, but it's completely up to you. And then finally, you just need to give a slippage. So you need to say, you know, how much of this price changing am I prepared to happen? And obviously, if you don't give enough slippage, it won't go through. You also have to think about things like liquidity. So you'd be, for example, checking to see how liquid that market is. And if you look here, you know, the last trade was 6 hours ago. So you can't bank on these mem coins having the best liquidity. But there you go. That's a brief overview to the Uniswap-Python package and how you can very simply make automated trades using Uniswap in just, what was that? 1, 2, 5. So it's about 4 lines of code. So yeah, hope this helps. And if you enjoyed this video, definitely watch the video on Web3